Amelia Elizabeth Dyer, born Amelia Elizabeth Hobley to parents Ull and Sarah Hobley, in a little village known as Pile Marsh near Bristol on the River Severn which separates England and Wales. Amelia's early years wasn't too bad. Her father was a master shoemaker with his own shop. He paid for Amelia to attend church school where she got a love for poetry and literature. There was 5 children, Amelia being the youngest. She had 3 brothers and a sister. Unfortunately, her life changed when her mother started having mental health problems as a result of contracting typhus. Amelia, being the youngest, had to stay home and care for her. When she wasn't doing that, she did chores around the house. Meanwhile, Amelia's sister Sarah Ann died. Over the years, Amelia's mother got pregnant once again and gave birth to a little girl whom she named Sarah Ann. Unfortunately, the baby only lived a few months. In 1848 Amelia's mother died, so Amelia moved in with her aunt in Bristol and got an apprenticeship making corsets. Amelia's father died in 1849. He left the shoe-making business to his eldest son Thomas. Amelia didn't really talk to her brothers. She moved to Trinity Street, Bristol. She wasn't there long before she met George Thomas. They started courting. George was 59, but his age did not matter to her, and it wasn't long before they got married. They needed to lie on the marriage certificate about their age as he was much older than her. They set up home. George got Amelia to train to become a nurse. George and Amelia were talking about starting a family and she soon became pregnant. She had to give up her job soon after, as pregnant women were not allowed to work during pregnancy in Victorian times. At 26 years old, Amelia had her first baby. Just after Amelia had her baby, Ellen Dane, who was a midwife, came to bring order to the house. She told Amelia she did baby farming on the side. She would take in pregnant girls, and when they gave birth to the baby they would pay Ellen a one-off fee of £10 or £20. If the girl was poor, or, if well off trying to hide her pregnancy from her family, it would be £80. Then the girl would go and leave the baby with her, to be adopted or foster out. Not long after visiting Amelia, Ellen Dane went to America to escape the police. Unfortunately, Amelia's husband died, which made her a widow alone with a child to feed and no income, so she decided to do baby farming. Only, the worst kind, but first she would foster out her own daughter. When that was done, she traveled around the outskirts of her village to bring pregnant women to her home. Because of the significant rise in pregnancies, and as a result, the ever-growing baby farming issues, Parliament passed the Pool to Amendment Act. This would mean that if a single woman had a baby, the father was not to be held financially responsible. But it had the opposite effect. Women were still becoming pregnant, but would still use baby farmers, in secret. The Pool to Amendment Act made things worse. So, Amelia started her baby farming, and when the girls came to Amelia to have their babies, Amelia would tell them that after the babies were born they could come back and see them at any time, and if they wanted to take the child they could. Of course she told them lies. They unfortunately would never see their baby again. Amelia started to advertise. She would write, "Baby wanted, loving home, a married and respectable woman, bring a fee and clothes." Amelia didn't look after the babies in her care. She let them die of starvation and kept the money. It had been a long time before Amelia had anything to do with the police, but in 1879, a doctor was suspicious about the number of baby deaths in the area. He had been called out to Amelia's home. She was arrested and taken to court charged with neglect. She was sentenced to 6 months hard labor. While serving hard labor, she would pretend that she had bad mental health problems so she could spend time in the asylum, away from hard labor. Being a nurse, she knew the symptoms, so it was easy for her to pretend. When she got out of the workhouse, she tried to go back to nursing, but they wouldn't take her, because of her mental health. So Amelia went straight back to baby farming, only this time she would do things differently. She wouldn't involve any doctors. She would get rid of the baby herself in the River Thames. Amelia couldn't stand babies crying of starvation, so she started buying an opium-based medicine that she could get from any pharmacy, known as Mother's Friend. She used this to sedate the baby. Sometimes she overdosed them with Mother's Friend or alcohol. In 1890, Amelia looked after a governess baby. The governess came back to Amelia to see her baby, but the baby, when passed to her, didn't look like her child, so she became very suspicious and stripped the baby's clothes off to see if a known birthmark was on the baby's hip. She discovered there was nothing, so the governess reported her to the police. Once again, Amelia was under investigation. This really scared Amelia, so she tried to commit suicide. She drank 2 bottles of laudanum, but because she'd taken so much of opium-based medication in the past, she was immune to it. Amelia wasn't prosecuted because of lack of evidence. Then Amelia carried on baby farming. Again, Amelia was reported to the police. A young woman wanted her baby and Amelia couldn't let her have it, because the child was dead. Amelia decided to move house and change her name in 1895. She moved to Cadisham, Berkshire, accompanied by J. Granny Smith. Amelia met her in the workhouse. She also convinced her daughter Mary and her son-in-law Arthur Palmer. They all moved to Kensington Road, Reading, in Berkshire. After a while, Amelia thought it would be a good idea if J. Granny was called Mother. The reason for this was because of how approachable and trusting J. Granny looked compared to Amelia, who looked very untrustworthy. But J. Granny didn't like the idea. Amelia explained to J. Granny that it would look better because she had a kind face and looked like a mother, unlike Amelia. In 1896, a 25-year-old barmaid Evelina Mormon gave birth to an illegitimate baby girl in a boarding house in Cheltenham whom she named Doris. She loved her baby very much, but she couldn't look after her and work as a barmaid, so she needed somebody to take her until she had enough money to look after her. So she started looking around for assistance. In the Bristol Times, where she herself had placed an ad, right next to hers was another ad asking for a baby. It read, "Wanted. Baby boy or girl, respectable married woman, who is unable to have a baby herself, lives in the country estate, in a very comfortable home, bring a fee and baby clothes." Evelina got in contact with Amelia, who, at this time was known as Mrs. Harding. All the arrangements were made, and Amelia met Evelina at the train station with her baby. The fee, which was a one-off payment of £10 and baby clothes. As Evelina handed over her baby with tears in her eyes, she saw her baby smile at J. Granny. Evelina walked with Amelia and J. Granny to their part of the train station what they needed to get to, then Evelina waved bye. A few days later she got a letter from Amelia saying the baby was fine. Evelina tried to write back but got no reply because Amelia had given her the wrong address. Amelia now lived with her 23-year-old daughter, Mary Ann, whose nickname was Polly. She resided at 76 Mayo Road, Willesden, London. While looking around the place she found some of Polly's sewing materials, and, laying on top of the pile of things she found some white edging tape. This will come in handy, she thought to herself as she made her way to baby Doris, who was laying looking up at her. She took the edging tap from her pocket and wrapped it around the baby Doris's neck twice and pulled, then put a knot in it. The baby couldn't breathe. Its poor little arms were moving up and down trying to catch a breath of air. When the arms stopped moving she knew the baby was dead. Amelia and Polly wrapped her dear little body up in a napkin and placed it in a cupboard. They then took the baby's clothes to a pawnbroker and sold them. That money paid for the rent. Amelia gave a pair of baby boots to the landlady's baby daughter. On the 1st of April 1896 another baby named Harry Simmons, who was 13 months old, came to Amelia's door. The mother gave £10 to Amelia and baby clothes. As soon as the mother went, Amelia was looking for more material edging, but couldn't find any, so she got the body of Doris out of the cupboard. The stench was unbearable. Amelia untied the knot from around her neck, wrapped her back up like a parcel, and placed the package back in the cupboard. She went over to baby Harry and repeated the same procedure as she did to Doris, and, again when he died she wrapped him up and placed him in the cupboard with Doris. On the 2nd of April both bodies were placed in a carpet bag along with some bricks to weigh the bag down. Amelia then set out for Reading. When she got to Reading, she found a spot that she knew very well at Caversham. When she got to a spot, she looked around to see if anyone was looking. Then she moved very quickly, pushing the bag through the railings into the Thames. As the bag fell, Amelia smiled as if she got a lot of satisfaction out of what she had done. However, it wasn't long before a bargeman found a package floating in the Thames. He pulled it over, using a pole, and hoisted it out of the water. He opened it to find 2 decaying babies' bodies. He took them straight to Reading Borough Police Station. When forensics looked at the babies and the packages, they found a label on one of the packages. After looking at it through a magnifying glass, they could see the name Arlene Fry, and they then found another label saying Temple Mead Train Station, Bristol. Mrs. Thomas, and what appeared to be an address, although it was too faint to make sense of. However, all the evidence pointed to Amelia Dyer. But they still have no real evidence to connect Dyer with the killings. So, The police put Amelia under surveillance. They very cleverly used a young woman to make a connection with Dyer, which she did so. It was all set up on the 3rd of April, Good Friday. Amelia waited for the young lady with the baby to come to her home. There was a knock on the door. Amelia got excited as she opened the door, but she got a big surprise. It was Reading police. They had come to search the house. As they walked in through the door, the stench of death and decay hit them. However, they didn't find any bodies, but they did find white edging tape along with telegrams from the mothers, baby clothes, adoption papers, and pawn tickets. They left with nothing, but they kept her under surveillance. Amelia still had a dead baby in the back of a cupboard they didn't find. After about 3 weeks, Amelia couldn't put up with the stench of the dead baby, so she took it to the Thames and threw it in, but it wasn't weighed down enough. It was not long before it was seen. Amelia was arrested on the 4th of April, charged with murder along with her son-in-law Arthur and daughter Mary. The police combed the River Thames and found another 6 babies. There wasn't any evidence on her son-in-law Arthur or her daughter Mary. Amelia appeared at the Old Bailey. She pleaded guilty to 1 murder, that was off Doris. However, there were a lot of witnesses, including Mary Ann, who's known as Polly. Amelia's only defense was her mental health, so she pleaded insanity. The prosecution argued that her mental instability had been a lie she used when the police came close to what she was doing. It took the jury just 4.5 minutes to find her guilty of murder. She was sentenced to death by hanging. Amelia was placed in a cell for 3 weeks. The chaplain came to see Amelia the night before the execution and asked if she had anything to say. She pointed at 3 exercise books that she had wrote. On the 10th of June, Amelia walked upon the gallows. Again she was asked by the executioner if she had anything she wanted to say, and she shook her head no. She was then hanged. She was known as the Angel Maker, the Ogress of Bristol. It is believed that over a 30-year span, she killed over 400 babies.